Georgetown Law School issues an emergency bulletin over protecting Pride events from armed extremist activity. The Institute for Constitutional Advocacy and Protection of Georgetown has issued an emergency bulletin over protecting Pride events from attacks. Published originally on May 19th and reiterated in terms of gun use yesterday, the guidance is designed to help local organizers in the LGBTQ+ community address potential threats by unlawful private paramilitary groups during Pride Month, which aims to inform local organizations about the legal options they have to counter these threats and ensure the safety of the event attendees. The guidance says that, given that these incidents have taken place in the past, it is possible that extremists armed with firearms or other weapons and sometimes acting as a private militia will attempt to target and interfere with upcoming Pride Month events, endangering LGBTQ+ individuals and their allies. However, the LGBTQ+ community members and their allies inside and outside the government should understand what they can do to keep Pride Month safe by knowing that state laws prohibit private paramilitary activity, even where it does not involve physical violence against a targeted person or persons. All 50 states prohibit private, unauthorized militias from engaging in activities reserved for the official state militia, including law enforcement activities. Nearly every state constitution prohibits groups functioning outside the authority of the state government, such as a paramilitary groups namely like Proud Boys and Patriot Front. Georgetown law is saying that they are acting like a military group in their organization and are therefore illegal by state laws, including the laws adopted by Florida. This is another big moment. First, we're watching very smart legal opinion begin to form against Governor DeSantis and other situations like this around the country. Last week, the issue of being able to open carry in the state of Florida is now the law of Florida. If I want to bring a gun to a Pride event, I can.
Even if it's private?
If
you're paying to get in?
I don't know. Split,
okay.
But I believe you can. Because private doesn't own the road, the public road. And for example, in our event, that is a state road. The real big issue here is that a group demonstration by Proud Boys is different than if they carry guns. And so if a group organizes in carrying guns, the argument by Georgetown law in terms of militias is that they're acting like a militia in official capacity for the state, which is illegal. And so as a result, this is a very well thought out defense of local and state law enforcement to say that is illegal. Now the question will be on the balance of open carry, but this is a very significant moment. And the other big news here is they elevate the memo, this 4-page memo that was fundamentally published yesterday, that there is high degree of risk with June Pride Month. The other standard, I think, to suggest that that is true is Governor DeSantis, who is behind and is the architect of what we have watched in Florida, is getting ready to announce his presidential campaign, as we reported last week at Queer News Tonight, in conjunction with June Pride Month. So we can't argue June Pride Month is of no consequence. Of course it's of consequence. I'm going to announce my presidential campaign on the back of June Pride Month. As de facto, the importance of this kicks in.
I think one of the sad things is that we've been going through this for years. I mean, if you look at any of the prides that are happening in our state, there's always military, there's state police, there's local county police, there's our local, we've got towers that go up. So in some ways, nothing has changed. other than there's more visibility because of DeSantis. But I mean, as it is, people are afraid of going to these things, and this just makes it even worse as we go into Pride Month. Should we be celebrating Pride, or should we be more like Stonewall? There's a lot going on, and is this a time to celebrate as a community and make believe everything else isn't happening? That's what I have to question. Like, there's no political statement
Answer
being
your
made.
question. What do you think from your standpoint?
From my standpoint, I think at every stage there should be a political statement by someone influential. I don't care if it's the musician that's singing, but someone that's going to draw enough people to the stage that there's your opportunity. Because we can't just pretend it's not existing. And in many ways, that's what we're doing. There are so many people in our community that will not even know there are no drag queens on those stages. They won't even realize it because they'll see drag queens walking around, but they won't see them on the stages, and because they're not following what's happening, they're not going to know it's missing. And they won't know anything's missing until everything's gone. And I take issue with some of the prides that are canceling. I know we'll probably talk about that later, but I understand the fear, but I also understand that they win if we go and hide. And like I said, nothing's changed in the last couple of years. That one incident we had in Wilton Manors was blown completely out of proportion when the gentleman was run over by someone else from the chorus.
Well, because we were living, at that time, we were really living in fear of any kind of violence.
But now nothinging's changed.
No.
Actually, in fact, the fear has been heightened. But
yes.
I think I want to bring out another point is that the Georgetown memo highlights something, which is the liability of the state. For example, let's say that, we have WMPD, obviously, Wilton PD, we'll have Broward Sheriff. But what if, the centers tell, state troopers to basically stand down and let the Proud Boys do their thing? We're just not going to intervene. Now, Georgetown has spelled it out loud that if you do not enforce your own laws, you will be liable.
Right.
You will be liable. So local enforcement, state enforcement cannot just ignore it and pretend that the Patriot Front doesn't exist and beating up protesters or beating up LGBTQ people.
I think that's a really excellent point, especially given that a few years ago when it was Black Lives Matter protests, that's a lot of what was happening. The cops were doing the violence and perpetrating a lot of the violence, and in things we've seen in certain instances around the country, they're not doing anything, and they're being complicit and allowing it.
I'm curious, did anybody, when you heard the news of Georgetown Law's memo about protection risk against home front terrorist groups? At the end of the day, both of these organizations are terrorist groups. Moms for Liberty is a terrorist group, except they're going into school boards, but they're terrorist groups. Did anybody think that that there wasn't credibility on the fact that what we're living in Florida, that this is not a credible threat? Did anybody think we're okay, or did you believe and accept that this is a credible threat that we should be paying attention to?
I think something is coming. Whether the size and scale is different. I mean, it can be just maybe a dozen Proud Boys show up, walk in front of the gables, yelling their stuff while everyone's standing in line waiting to get in, rolling their eyes. Or, maybe it's a truckload of Patriot Front people with their god-awful blue polo shirt and khakis and with their white mask, storming out of the back of a truck. Hopefully law enforcement intercept them before they ever get near the parade.
And not just here, but at any prides, but it applies to us for sure, but to any pride in the month of June, any pride festivities, it's important.
And then you harken back to, how did this all happen too? Normalizing Trump's rhetoric that say it's okay to hate you because you're gay or you're black or you're anything, you're trans. It's okay. And him continually to repeat that has given people permission to hate. And, he's the one who said, I can shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. If that isn't, carte blanche to do what you want.
It's not just him, though. I mean, Ron DeSantis.
Everybody.
But that was the first one that opened that door that everyone else walked through.
Yeah, because when I remember growing up, there's still people who are racist, still people who are homophobic, but it wasn't polite to share those thoughts. It was something you were supposed to not feel. And by putting it on the loudest stage and in the loudest person, now everyone's like, oh, it's okay. I don't have to be ashamed. I'm supposed to be this way.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, well, obviously we're going to follow this breaking news closely. We are Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only live daily LGBTQ+ evening news show from Happening Out Television Network. In the model of PBS and NPR, we educate, inform, and entertain by supporting the 10 pillars of the LGBTQ+ community, with more than 100,000 a week watching on Roku, Apple Television, and other channels. To keep the stories going, we accept donations with 100% transparency. Stay updated and live authentically with Queer News Tonight.